So today I want to talk to you about why empaths tend to attract energy vampires. Have you ever noticed that as an empath or highly sensitive person, you seem to attract people who leave you emotionally exhausted, mentally fatigued, physically wrung out? Relationships where you feel like you're constantly giving, constantly listening, constantly supporting, but somehow walking away feeling drained, overwhelmed, or emotionally depleted. Many sensitive people describe attracting what are often referred to as energy vampires, people who unconsciously or consciously, so that is with intent, take emotional, spiritual, and physical energy without giving much, if anything, back. And while the term can sound dramatic, there is actually a deeper psychological and energetic dynamic underneath this pattern. So in this short video, I want to talk about why empaths often attract emotionally draining relationships and people, and what sensitive people can do to stop repeating these patterns. So let's get into it. Empaths are naturally emotionally attuned. Empaths and highly sensitive people are often deeply aware of other people's emotional states. They notice emotional shifts, pain beneath behavior, subtle tension, unmet needs, emotional wounds in others. And this awareness can make empaths incredibly compassionate, but it can also make them more vulnerable to overfunctioning emotionally in relationships. So in other words, they tend to do all of the emotional labor. Many sensitive people instinctively move into these kind of roles of soothing, helping, fixing, caretaking, understanding, and emotionally carrying others. Sometimes without even realizing they're doing it, it becomes such a state, such a natural state for them that they don't realize something's wrong until they're completely worn out and exhausted. So the nervous system side of the pattern. One thing I think is really important to understand is that many empathic people have nervous systems that become highly attuned to other people early in life, especially if someone grew up around emotional unpredictability, conflict, inconsistency, and emotionally unavailable caregivers. You've heard me speak about this before, that empaths and highly sensitive people tend to be brought up by non-sensitive caretakers and often have more than one at least narcissist in that ecosystem. The nervous system then learns to constantly scan other people emotionally and energetically, which then in turn creates hyper-awareness. And later in life, that hyper-awareness can look like overreading people, overgiving, difficulty disconnecting emotionally, feeling responsible for others' well-being. Fundamentally, you turn into a hyper-vigilant state. And many empaths are just not emotionally sensitive. They're highly adapted to monitoring emotional environments. And remember, this has been set as a pattern for them very early on in life, often is the case. So why draining people gravitate towards empaths? It's a good question. Emotionally draining people are often drawn to empaths because sensitive people tend to listen deeply, they tolerate a lot, they give second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th chances. They hold emotional space. They tend to want to avoid conflict, and they try to understand behavior compassionately. They're often asking questions like, oh, why did they behave that way? Is there something that I've done wrong? Or maybe it's because of the way they were brought up, or their boss was mean to them. So we're always making excuses and compensations for other people's behavior. The problem is that compassion without boundaries can become a form of self-abandonment. And many empaths confuse understanding someone with needing to tolerate unlimited access to their energy. These two are not the same thing. Emotional drain isn't always energy. I also think it's important to ground this conversation a little bit because not every emotionally exhausting interaction is some mystical psychic attack. Sometimes emotional drain is chronic emotional dumping, one-sided relationships, nervous system deregulation, sometimes chronically, lack of boundaries, and emotional labor without reciprocity. Sensitive people often leave these interactions feeling exhausted because their systems process emotional information deeply. And so this is why the nervous system regulation and boundaries are just so important, as is energetic awareness. So signs you may be in a draining dynamic. Here are some common signs. Number one, you feel emotionally exhausted after interactions. Conversations revolve around the other person. You feel responsible for the other people's emotions. Number four, you struggle to say no. Number five, you ignore your own needs to maintain a connection. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, you feel guilty creating distance and having a boundary. These patterns are incredibly common for sensitive people. How empaths break the pattern. The healing work is not becoming less empathetic or less empathic. It's becoming more discerning because sensitive people often need to learn these boundaries: nervous system regulation, emotional separation, self-trust, and recognizing when compassion becomes self-sacrifice. Because empathy should not require chronic exhaustion. Healthy empathy looks different. Healthy empathy allows you to care about people without carrying them emotionally. It allows you to support others without abandoning yourself. It allows compassion and boundaries to exist together. And that is where empathy and being a healthy empath becomes sustainable.